thanks to the Arab Organization for Human Rights in the UK for inviting me. I think anybody who cares about human rights or freedom of expression should be unequivocal in condemning outright the move by the Palestinian Authority to shut down the offices of Al Jazeera, and what is absolutely outrageous is also the killing of Shatta al Sabah, a young journalist who, was at the beginning of her life a trusted source for coverage of the events in Jenin, that she should be shot down in this brutal way. It appears by security forces of the Palestinian Authority is absolutely horrendous. And of course, all of this comes on the back of what would appear to be a Palestinian Authority attempt to censor coverage and criticism of the siege that they've imposed on Jenin, where, as Nader has referred to, we've had raids, murderous raids in Jenin conducted by the Palestinian Authority security forces, and the cutting off and destruction of vital infrastructure, power, water, the means by which the population of Jenin refugee camp can actually sustain themselves. So it is truly horrendous. It has to be condemned out of hand, and it is tragic that what we are seeing is the Palestinian Authority echoing the brutal tactics of the Israeli occupation. When you consider that Israel has systematically targeted journalists, more than 200 journalists murdered by the Israeli occupation forces in Gaza over the last year. And of course, before the genocidal assault of the last year, we had and have had ongoing targeting of journalists by Israel, because they don't want the world to know the atrocities and crimes that they are committing against the people of Gaza and the people of Palestine generally, and therefore have systematically targeted journalists. It is truly shameful and tragic that a body that would claim to represent the Palestinians in the form of the Palestinian Authority would be echoing and mirroring the tactics of the occupation forces in targeting journalists and censoring one of the few and most popular outlets in the region and in the world, indeed, in the case of Al Jazeera, that has been willing to expose the crimes that the Israeli occupation have committed and the genocide that they are engaged in Gaza. And I suppose all one can really say is that this is the tragic outworking of the continued commitment of the Palestinian Authority to the failed Oslo so-called peace process. I always have opposed Oslo, not because I don't want to see peace or a just solution, but because I always believed that Oslo was a trick that was being played on the people of Palestine to create a pretense that Israel had even the slightest interest in a just solution to the conflict, when in reality, this was a device for Israel to pretend that it was interested in peace while actually deepening and expanding the occupation of Palestine. And of course, that is what we have seen since Oslo, the ongoing expansion and entrenchment of the occupation, the expansion of illegal settlements, ongoing attacks on the Palestinians, the suppression of legitimate Palestinian resistance. And it's really, it's not surprising to hear Israel demonizing those who resist their brutal occupation and claiming they are terrorists. It's absolutely shameful that the Palestinian Authority would echo the same kind of false propaganda against young people, in the case of Jenin, young people who were absolutely understandably resisting the brutality of the Israeli occupation of their territory. And even under international law, people have the right to resist an occupation. Indeed, while much of the world's attention is rightly focused on the atrocities and war crimes and genocide that Israel is committing in Gaza, there is that wider picture of why on earth does the world tolerate the ongoing illegal annexation of territory and settlements being built by Israel in the West Bank? Why on earth does the world even entertain the idea that Israel has any right whatsoever to militarily intervene or attack people in the West Bank? The only people who have the right to resist are the Palestinians themselves. Under international law, their country, their land is illegally occupied. They have every right to resist it. And for the Palestinian Authority to attack young people who are legitimately resisting this brutal occupation by Israel is really quite shocking. But I suppose it's an instance of something we're familiar with in Ireland, the classic tactics of colonialism and imperialism, which is divide and rule. To use divide and rule tactics to divide an occupied people, to set them against one another. And tragically, the Palestinian Authority has fallen for these divide and rule tactics. So all I can say is we must condemn this, condemn the attack on free speech, on journalists, condemn the fact that Israel is essentially policing the occupation on behalf of the Israeli occupying forces, and that they should desist immediately from doing that. And indeed, they should recognize that Israel is not a good faith partner and never has been in any attempt to bring a peaceful or just settlement to the situation. They have proved at every hand's turn they are an apartheid, brutal, colonial, murderous regime, and that the Palestinian people have every right to resist it. And it's long past time that the world recognized that the Israeli regime is a regime that needs to be dismantled, and that everybody who believes in human rights needs to side with the Palestinian people in resisting this regime, and at the very, very least have to condemn any attempt by the Palestinian Authority or anybody to suppress journalistic freedom to fully expose and cover the crimes that are being committed by the Israeli occupation against the Palestinian people, and now tragically the crimes being committed by the Palestinian Authority, essentially acting on behalf of that occupation.